Welcome to Poetry of Immigrants. Glad to have you in this wonderful celebration of National Poetry Month. Imagine, all over the country. Yeah, all over the country and south of the border too, where we'll be traveling today. I have wonderful guests today. I'm so glad. Welcome, Kim.
Thank you, Frank.
Welcome, Elaine.
Thank you.
Oh, Gemma, here we are back again, having the time of our lives. Oh, I'm going to start with a little bit of an invocation. I read this the first show. It's called For an Exile. When you dream, it is always home. You are there among your own, the rhythm of their voices rising like song, your blood would sing through any dark. Then you awake to find yourself listening to the sounds of traffic in another land. For a moment, your whole body recoils at the strange emptiness of where you are. This country is cold to your voice. It is still a place without echoes. Nothing of yours has happened here. No one knows you. The language slows you. The thick accent smothers your presence. You sound foreign to yourself. Their eyes reflect how strange you seem when you're seen across a cold distance that has no bridge to carry the charisma in which your friends delight at home. Though your work here is hard, it brings relief, helps your mind. In returning to the small bounties of your absence, evening is without protection. Your room waits, ready to take you back like some convict who is afraid of the life outside. The things you brought from home look back at you. Out of place here, they take on lonely power. You cringe at the thought that someone from home might see you here in this unsheltered room. Now is the time to hold faithful to your dream, to understand that this is an interim time full of awkward disconnection. Gradually, you will come to find your way to friends who will open doors into a new belonging. Your heart will brighten with new discovery. Your presence will unclench and find ease, letting your substance and promise be seen. Slowly, a new world will open for you. The eyes of your heart, refined by this desert time, will be free to see and celebrate the new life for which you sacrificed everything. And yet they still come to our shores. They sacrifice everything. They risk life and limb, separation from family, loved ones. And we're here to welcome them. And this show, let's welcome them with their own poetry. That feels wonderful. So let's go back in time. We're celebrating National Poetry Month, which means y'all come. We're going to cover the waterfront, and then we're going to focus on south of the border. So in our past, in America, we've had some wonderful voices like Emily Dickinson. And she's sitting right next to me. She looks so good after all these years.
Thank you.
So, Kim, how about a nice Emily Dickinson poem to open? Thanks.
Absolutely. Hope is a Thing with Feathers by Emily Dickinson. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. Wow. and sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me.
That's my favorite Emily.
I think it's mine also.
I read it once at a eulogy for someone who died very young. Hope is what poetry gives us. It's in that first poem that I read, The Exile, and it keeps us going. I think the best hope is in seeing the words last. Capturing emotion and feeling, but seeing them last. I have another one that I'd like to share from Emily on the theme of birds. The most triumphant bird I ever knew or met. The most triumphant bird I ever knew or met embarked upon a twig today, and till dominion set, I famish to behold so eminent a sight, and sang for nothing scrutable but intimate delight. Retired and resumed his transitive estate, to what delicious accident does finest glory fit? Take some parsing, some separating of words and sentence and command of syntax, but there's such a feeling of joy in this poem, which echoes birdsong in the morning. I hear it every day, and it gets me up, but it gets me up with hope and joy.
For a woman who preferred to stay in her own safe location, she takes the bird soaring and she takes it to far dominions. And she is a poet, and through her poetry is an explorer in that sense.
And what a vehicle for her, captured in her own upstairs room, to be able to express. I love what you said, Gemma, last show, about what poetry does for you. It allows you a vehicle of expression for deeper feelings, things we normally don't talk about every day, but that are there wanting to come out in our authentic voice, our natural voice, as Emily's voice is. And we have it. I think she covers so many different feelings and emotions in her own inimitable way with such short verse that we could travel the world. And in fact, she wrote a poem to that effect. Staying in our little bedroom, we can travel the world. There is no frigate like a book to take us lands away, nor any coursers like a page of prancing poetry. This traverse may the poorest take without oppressive toll. How frugal is the chariot that bears the human soul. Also travel to metaphysical realms, as well as the geography of other places. Speaking of the geography of other places, let's now get on this frigate, this barkentine, the antique words for ship, which seem to be throughout 19th century poetry. And let's go south. Elaine, how about one of your own poems?
Sure, I'll share Soul Tie. My father is from Puerto Rico, my mother is from the Dominican Republic. So I wrote this poem to discuss, actually, to express my love for Puerto Rico. So this is Soul Tie.
Soul Tie.
Soul Tie, yes.
Love it.
I was born with an irregular heartbeat caused by the small puncture wound of a needle. The doctor tried to cover it, but it came back like a limb on a sea star. It contracts and expands, The sound crescendos and decrescendos, pulses and sways like a hammock tied to two palm trees. Not a caprice, but an esoteric connection, constantly charging despite the separation of waters and its ever-changing waves. Unlike my unwavering love for the pearl cradled inside the throat of a coquille, unleashed at night when the skies are dressed in black silk and diamonds. It kisses me, turns me into a princess with riches in sand. I can feel the winds thrusting, the rains consoling, feet stomping, hands caressing, bodies lying. It is not mere fickleness. The subidor drum will never cease to talk. There will always be words to decipher, dead skin to discover, underneath grounds where seeds are scattered and watered, until tables are filled with yams and cassava.
What a rich poem in feeling and imagery. Oh, the night sky with diamonds. How old were you when you wrote that?
Actually, this is one of my earlier poems. I began to write again several years ago. And this was a way of expressing my love for Puerto Rico and also my childhood. I was switched from a regular classroom to a bilingual classroom, and that was first grade, and that's when I learned about Puerto Rico because I was not born there. So I began to learn about myself and my cultural identity. So this poem was a way of going back and also embracing what I have become, and also my pride in Puerto Rico and my yearning for it because I am far away from it as well.
So you have a purpose in writing that, and it works, doesn't it? I could see you're celebrating the culture and the feelings and your patrimony in a way. How wonderful, though, to have a command of imagistic description that you have. That's the thing that appealed to me in your other poems, too. Let's hear a second poem.
Okay, sure. This one is a dream, and it kind of ties a little bit to this one because I mention a lot of food in my poems because, it's comfort, and who doesn't get excited when they hear pollo guisado? I mean, that brings a lot of excitement.
Could you say that one again?
Pollo guisado.
That's what I was trying to
I know,
say.
it's a little like tickle
Pollo
up my
guisado.
back. Yeah, pollo guisado. So this one, it has some similar themes because it talks about hope and survival at the same time. So this is a dream. She was making rice and stirring a pot of pollo guisado, beautifully, meticulously, cariñosamente. I contemplated her. Smells good, right, mija? A plethora of flowers fell from the heavens, magenta, purple, blue, and silver. They descended gracefully, lelo lelo lai, lelo lelo lai, carrying me to a fertile land. I saw Jibarito delighting in the freshly cut grass. With a melody on his lips and hierbas in his tattered hands, he scattered the seeds with care. Magia. Mommy continued mixing, a sprinkling of water on my head, warm, therapeutic, relajante. I closed my eyes, releasing awareness, but my peace was interrupted. She stopped stirring, and I awoke to an empty stove. No pollo guisado, no flowers, no song.
How I love the sprinkling as a blessing, right? It's a blessing in the dream. What role do dreams play in your poems?
Oh my goodness, there are so many, I would say there are many facets, like the dreams as far as just what I dream for myself and for the people that I care about, dreams that I actually have. My grandmother plays a huge role because she lived for us. That was her dream. And she went through so much scarcity and so much pain, and that's where, the no pollo guisado, no flowers, no song, there was no, none of that. But she did it so we can have that dream and we can have something. So there you have these two concepts together of not having and having, or not having so someone else can have something.
Oh, yes.
That's sacrifice. And for me, dreams play a big part. And also you have to have something to look forward to.
Yeah.
You have to have a dream. You have to have a hope. And my grandma is that for me. And even though, she's not with me or with us anymore, that's what she is for me. So.
Dreams are hopeful. And hope sustains us. Again, I love your imagery. So what does pollo guisado taste like?
Oh, it's so good. It's stewed chicken,
Yeah.
but it is delicious. And of course, my mom makes the best pollo guisado. I mean, I can try it, and I've asked her for the recipe, but she's like, oh, there's no science to it. You don't have to do any measurements. You just use your judgment. And I've tried with her, but it just doesn't come out like hers.
Yeah.
And then she's like, you just use your judgment. So I put some adobo. She goes, oh, you pushed too much. And I said, well, you just told me to use my judgment. But she makes it so good.
That's how my grandmother taught me how to cook. She goes, you have to feel. You have to feel.
You have to.
And you take a dish, but you might need a little more or less depending on the eggs.
And I'm like, okay, so it's too much, it's too little, but I'm using my own, but yeah, so.
Thank you. Wonderful. And we'll come back to a third a little later. I'm glad you reinforced the word hope for us, because today really is an offering of hope to those immigrants, migrants, and all poets out there who want to find freedom of expression and a place to call their own. Last show we talked about Brodsky and his escape from the Soviet Union, which made all the difference. Let's stay south of the border and move to Pablo Neruda, which is a pen name, and that's so fascinating to me. I never really toyed with a pen name. Did you, Gemma, ever think about a pen name? I'm a poet. I must have a pen name. No, but this fellow did. He was born in the south of Chile and then came up to Santiago. Nobel. Interesting life. We have two poems by him. And Elaine, please read one and I'll read the other. But I just want to say a little something about his background and the way he described his poetry, the purpose of poetry, what poetry means, in his own words. You ready for this? He wanted, he said, a poetry, quote, now these are Neruda's words, corroded as if by an acid, by the toil of the hand, impregnated with sweat and smoke, smelling of urine and lilies, end quote. Wow, that's a tall order. And then the editor here says, with Walt Whitman, he is the quintessential American poet, meaning Latin America, as well as North America, South America, as well as North America. So he stands in that kind of status with Walt Whitman. He was an artist, he said, and this is Neruda describing himself, quote, an artist of bread, truth, wine, and dreams. We've got to have those dreams. So we have two poems here. You could call them metapoetry, which is poems about the art of poetry. Later we'll talk about poems about painting, which would be ekphrastic. So I'm going to read the first one, Neruda's poem entitled The Poet's Obligation. To whoever is not listening to the sea this Friday morning, to whoever is cooped up in house or office, factory or woman or street or mine or harsh prison cell, To him I come, and without speaking or looking, I arrive and open the door of his prison. And a vibration starts up, vague and insistent. A great fragment of thunder sets in motion the rumble of the planet. Sounds like the roofing people on top of the building right now. Boom, boom. Only poetically, the rumble of the planet and the foam, the raucous rivers of the ocean flood. The star vibrates swiftly in its corona, and the sea is beating, dying, and continuing. So, drawn by my destiny, I ceaselessly must listen to and keep the seas lamenting in my awareness. I must feel the crash of the hard water and gather it up in a perpetual cup so that wherever those in prison may be, wherever they suffer the autumn's castigation, I may be there with an errant wave. I may move, passing through the windows, and hearing me, eyes will glance upward, saying, "How can I reach the sea?" And I shall broadcast, saying nothing, the starry echoes of the wave, a breaking up of foam and a quicksand, a rustling of salt withdrawing, the gray cry of seabirds on the coast. So through me, freedom and the sea will make their answer to the shuttered heart. The poet has a purpose. Probably most poets would agree in this way, which is the purpose to open hearts. Your shuttered heart, he says. His purpose is to open hearts, and he's making a comparison, I think, between the reliability of the sea, a metaphor for poetry. It's water, which is a traditional symbol of hope and life. Again, on a metaphysical level, the poet's obligation is to be there for the prisoner, the person trapped at home, always with that metaphorically salt smell of the sea, bringing hope through poetry. And he continues. So at what age, he asks. So when did you know you liked poetry?
I think probably when my parents started reading to me, as early as I can remember. I always loved it. I dabbled in trying to write it, and some of it I thought was fabulous, but, and it is a way to hold on to hope or to
Share hope.
share hope or pull yourself up. Or get rid of pain if you reading it or composing it.
It's such a workable therapy. And it's interesting that parents take time to read poetry to kids. That's a missing ingredient, I think, in a lot of families. You were fortunate, Kim.
I was.
That sets your ear in motion early.
It did.
Yeah. And you have another statement by Neruda that I asked you to read, which is something that appeals to all of us, I think.
Poetry. And it was at that age, poetry arrived in search of me. I don't know where it came from winter or a river. I don't know how or when. No, there were not voices, there were not words nor silence, but from a street I was summoned, from the branches of night, abruptly from the others, among violent fires or returning alone. There I was without a face, and it touched me. I did not know what to say. My mouth had no way with names. My eyes were blind. and something started in my soul, fever or forgotten wings, and I made my own way.
As we all do. A fever in the soul, that appeals to me. And also, I think it's a way, as you say, to pull yourself up out of trauma or whatever misfortune may happen. A lot of us go that route.
When I hear other people read or recite, perform their poetry, that became, for me, when I first heard people get up and, be their own poetry, that gave me a rebirth, because I wanted to contribute too. It was watching all the contributions and feeling all the contributions, and I said, oh, I want to say something too. I didn't even have it yet, but I wanted to be there and say it too. Yeah.
And yes, look at you now. Yeah. Another quick plug, Poetry Institute tonight.
Tonight, yeah.
Yeah, in New Haven.
Yeah. Tonight we are going to be doing, if I can find it, the role of poets in difficult times. And we're going to have poets Kate Rushin and Laura Manuelitis and visual artist Karina Alvarez de Lugo talk about the contribution of poets in difficult times.
Well, that's poetry of immigration.
Mm-hmm.
Poets in difficult times. One of the social issues that's really tough to deal with is poverty, and kind of goes with the territory, so to speak, of immigrants all over the world, fresh off the boat with perhaps half a suitcase, if that. But before we get to that, Gemma, you brought a couple.
I brought some poems by a Trinidadian woman named Lauren Aliena, and I just fell in love with her poetry, just noodling around. I wanted to represent the Caribbean, and because I have a little association with Trinidad through my family, my son-in-law plays carnival there, and his daughter has also played carnival recently. And so I thought I would check it out. Now this poet, Trinidad is a real melding of cultures and a collection of cultures. And this poet, Lauren, she borrows from other cultures even in her own poems. She's written a ghazal, which is from an ancient form from Arabic, from before the time of Islam, and the Middle Eastern and Indian countries also use ghazals. Hers is called A Ghazal in Arms. When you sleep alone, tucked like nervous wings, your arms pillow your dreaming head, and you're in her arms. Her, home. Him, home. God, that flashlight in the dark, home. Home, mother's hand. Home, love's many spiked and tender arms. Psalm, O fractal and cadenced world, you are worthy to be praised. O poets, O heart, lift up your arms. Einstein the octopus could unscrew jars of food. Not bad for a slug's cousin, but he's got 8 arms. The debt collectors find your new address. At home, the sheriff's got a star on a letter. The law's long arms. In elementary school, punishment was this. Offenders knelt on the floor and held up long arms. In the Bible, God promises the Israelites victory if Moses never lowers his arms. Stones and arrows to gunpowder and mushroom clouds. One true evolution, the production of arms. The Trail of Tears, Hiroshima, Guantanamo. History is written in the mightiest arms. Michelle Obama's upper body is to die for, tabloids say. The First Lady's right to bear arms. 4th degree, red belt, and moving hard toward black, the body becomes your race toward secret arms. Lauren, face it, you're not ready for love's quiet settling, though it woos you with wide open arms. And in the last stanza, you're supposed to introduce yourself. That's why she says, Lauren, face it, you're not ready.
What a poem. Wow. I've read a few ghazals, but this one has it all. And I love the pattern, which I tried once but flopped. It's so demanding. It's such an intricate end rhyme, isn't it? And a repetition of rhyme. But it was so free. And, you know, even though it's a formal poem, it just had the freedom of conversation. And
that mental riff where the image of arms takes you, the idea of arms, and what does that even mean?
What a riff, yeah. And Einstein and octopus and all the imagery. I loved it. It was marvelous. We're going to take a little break, a breather, and do a little sip of water, and take a breath and shake it off and come back in 2 minutes.
Okay.
Yep.
We need a new house because this one is too small. We need 37 bedrooms in order to accommodate the dramatic increase in children. Yale New Haven Children's Hospital. This new house will be more specialized in the rooms that we provide and much larger to accommodate the sheer volume of families who are going to need us.
They said I have troll teeth.
That my voice sounded like a possessed baby doll.
That no one would ever love someone as stupid as me.
That I was fat, ugly.
Disgusting.
The effect of bullying is potent.
We will no longer be the silent majority.
Now, when you see online bullying, there's something you can do about it.
We're gonna take action with the I.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness.
I am a witness, and so are you.
It's a beautiful day out here. Sunny today with light breezes, giving way to clouds in the afternoon. We could see some light precipitation to moderate precipitation later on, followed by powerful storm-like conditions. 90 miles per hour winds are expected. Authorities are asking everyone, stay indoors. Come on, that's it. Let's go.
They're coming. Places, everybody.
Light check. 1, 2, 1, 2.
Everything looks good on our end.
And lights.
Come alive with the forest. Visit discovertheforest.org to find a forest near you.
To stay in the Caribbean. And I have a couple of short ones I'd like to start off with, but I'd like to point out some of the decoration and set here. We have a poster from Haiti, and Haitian art is pretty distinctive. There's a oil painting which I collected in 1965 in Pétionville, up from Port-au-Prince, and it was a work by the father of Haitian painting, Pétion Savin, and he signed it in the lower right-hand corner. And if you're looking at painting, which in this sense is almost a poem, You can see how he drew with a figure 8 on its side. It took me years to see that figure 8. Can you see it? The figures themselves form the boundary of the 8. Yeah. So the 8 goes on its side like that. Isn't that fun? That's street life in Haiti. And it's a special memento of my first trip out of the country, and it happened to be Haiti. I have a little poem by a poet from Martinique, Aimé Césaire, and it's very short. It's only about 7 lines. It's called A Different Horizon, which is a way of saying people of color everywhere look at the world sometimes in a totally different way. And I think this, as metaphor, is what he's getting at. Night forked stigmata, night telegraphic bush planted in the ocean for the scrupulous lovemaking of cetaceans. Night locked splendid muck heap where all its strength and with all its wild beasts, the purple muscle of the monk's hood of our sun prepares to spring. A totally different world, almost a world like this, a dream world. So everything is not white, everything is black. Night forked stigmata, almost like a human stick figure. Night telegraphic bush planted in the ocean. The scrupulous lovemaking of cetaceans, night locked. All local imagery, but in a totally different treatment. A Caribbean treatment. A treatment that's more alive in many ways, more graphic, more imagistic. Short one from Tobago. Midsummer Tobago. And this is Derek Walcott, Nobel Prize winner from St. Lucia in the Caribbean. And he now divides his time between New York City and Trinidad. Midsummer Tobago. Broad sunstone beaches, white heat, a green river, a bridge, scorched yellow palms from the summer sleeping house, drowsing through August. Days I have held, days I have lost, days that outgrow like daughters, my harboring arms. I came across a Mexican poet. How would I pronounce his name? Is it Manuel Ulacia?
Ulacia.
Ah, good. And he's talking powerfully about his father. And as his father passes, I'll just read a short segment. Manuel was born in Mexico City, where he still lives and teaches. Title of the poem is The Stone at the Bottom. Great metaphor in this poem. The stone at the bottom, as my father's breathing fails little by little, the probes and needles and oxygen mask removed, between systole and diastole, on the stage of memory, one after another, the images like photos come to life. The trip to school at 8 a.m. with its enigmas of the Yellow River, the gardens of Mesopotamia, the Great Wall and Newton's apple, and later at recess, while talking with other children in the cool shade of tall trees, the image of my father transformed into the author of heroic feats. I think the range we're covering today of Caribbean poets in South America is a good start. And I think next month I'd like to continue on down. I'd like to hear your third poem, Elaine, if you feel up to it. It's pretty powerful.
It's a longer piece.
Yes.
It's Fresca Viene y Morir Soñando. And I'd like to tell stories in many of my poems. And this is a story. The title is Fresca Viene y Morir Soñando. Frescavena is literally translated to fresh oats, and morir soñando, to die dreaming. So I'll read the poem. I'm going to teach you about malice, he said, because people carry evil in their hearts, and pity only kills unexpectedly, like an infirmity you feed until it curtails your exuberance, and the possibility of renewal is as distant as a blood moon. My mother's bloody lip didn't bother. My sister's black eye gave me the acuity of an eagle. Love is woe. It comes in the shape of a belt buckle, a phone receiver, a spiked heel. Words fly in overcast skies, and I love you is a feather, a flower petal, or a clock in distress, falling back, sprinting forward. The questions are when and how. They taunt you in the showers, slice your wrists, whisper soon you shall see. A taciturn shriveled spirit in oversized clothing, awaiting a new song to awaken it. But instead, here's a tune once recorded on a little machine, a melody about ice creams and sprinkles, spaceships and galaxies, butterflies and daisies. Can the flower petals be put together? Can I catch the words, scramble and unscramble them, change the letters, the diction, the intonation? Can I convert them into sugar cubes, float on them to prevent me from drowning in a glass of water? Can I eradicate the phrases invaded by exclamation points? You are going to learn. This is so you won't ever forget. I didn't. Some things are ephemeral. Others remain caught in the edges and corners of a bathtub. I scraped the residue with my fingernails, tucked it under my doormat, and every so often I crawl to it, because stepping on it with only my feet isn't good enough.
I love your diction. You have a command of vocabulary that is poetic in the sense that one word can cover 10. That's a gift.
Thank you.
And it's the richness, too, of your description that combines with the excellent diction to really have a punch. What were you feeling when you read that?
I think many emotions. I wanted definitely to tell the story. I wanted to express also not just pain, but that survival mode, and also the fact that a lot of times tragic experiences, they stay with you, you know, and how you choose to remember them, how you choose to deal with them means a lot. And the narrative voice, you know, she crawls to it, and it kind of plays back with childhood and adulthood, but she crawls to it as a form of strength, like just stamping on it, you know, with the feet isn't good enough, you know, I'm going to just overcome this, which goes back to the title, Fresh Oats and To Die Dreaming, and that whole idea, you have to push in and move forward, you know. So I did want to tell the story and hopefully convey many emotions.
I felt the power of that poem, and now I sense the purpose, which is really useful. Do you ever read your poetry out loud at home?
Yes, I do. I don't know if I should say that, but I do.
You do.
I have to hear it.
Yes.
You know, I have to hear it. It has to have musicality, because music is very important for me. And I have to feel it. Like I have to count the beats. I have to imagine it and be comfortable with it, you know.
And that's the sure way to hear the music. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Wow. We look forward to next time. Hope you can make it too.
Oh, I would love
I'd love to continue.
I would love to come.
And Jemba, you have another poem?
I have another poem by Lauren Elenia.
Good.
It's a shorter poem, and it's called Love in A Flat, after Dean Young. Dean told us a story about Coltrane, how one time in a recording he hit a wrong note, a real clam. In the second take, he hit it again, this time harder, longer. Then the third time, it becomes the heart, the sound of all the other notes wrapping themselves around. A different understanding of the melody, the song beneath the song, the stubborn beat holding up the heaviness of flesh.
Same poet.
Yeah, same
Imagine
poet. And you know
the
that
range.
just the how that random thing that happens that you don't know how to cover, you own it. You own it. It becomes your flesh. You just keep working around it and through it and in it, and it's you. And just that, you know. I mean, I don't think I ever understood jazz quite so well as through that poem.
You read it really well. Yeah. Music. It's around us. Haitian poetry and painting are quite something distinctive in the Antilles. Haiti's called the Pearl of the Antilles. Could you reach around, Elaine, and pull that flag so that I can wave it? Thank you. The Haitian flag. And Haiti's history is quite interesting, but we have flash forward to the 80s New York. And if you can reach the book, I can mention an artist whose father fled Papa Doc's brutal regime in the late 50s. This is Jean-Michel Basquiat, and he knocked him dead before he died at 27. And the biography's called A Quick Killing in Art, a double play on that, because he made millions in 6 years over the popularity of his wonderful artwork. And in order to show you, I will stand up in a minute, but I want to just read his errant poetry, which just sort of floats out of a cloud. This one's called A Prayer. A prayer. Nicotine walks on eggshells, medicated. The earth was formless, void. His spelling is his own, by the way. Darkness, face of the deep. Spirit moved across the water, and there was light. It was good. Copyright. Breathing into his lungs 2,000 years of asbestos. What an iconoclastic poet. What a poet and artist of cynicism in his young years. What he did was to get the marble notebooks that most kids do, and these are kind of basic school notebooks from the earliest grades, and he filled hundreds of them of this kind of, almost started to say rambling, but he was so drug-induced in his creativity that a lot of it was. But the painting's another matter. They're all, for me, cryptic images. Thanks to Gemma, I have a work of art by Basquiat that I am wearing, and I'm going to turn around so that the full effect of the artwork can be seen. Which is really distinctive. I mean, I could walk around in the village with this.
Looks good.
It's just so stunning. So what he did was he fused language and painting colors together. So some people call him a poet. Some people call him a painter. He lived a life of gutter art. Left his traditional father, his Haitian father from Brooklyn. I'm out of here. 18, lived on the streets of Manhattan, produced what's called gutter graffiti art, and moved up the ladder slowly from there, all independently on his own. And that's a tough road. So starvation was part of it. And he succeeded beyond his wildest dreams. He wanted to be actually Warhol's protege, and he became him. They were collaborative artists together, successful in the 80s. We're talking 80 to 89 when the phenomenon of consumerism of art took over. What an interesting guy, and what a trip from Haiti, through his forebears to the streets of Manhattan. We have a couple of minutes left, but I want to read a sort of blockbuster poem by, if I can find it. We'll get to the ekphrastic poetry next time, the paintings and the poems. But this is, speaking of poverty in the streets of New York, a poem by Adrienne Rich. There's the poverty of the cockroach kingdom and the rusted toilet bowl, the poverty of to steal food for the first time, the poverty of to mouth a penis for a paycheck, the poverty of sweet charity, ladling soup for the poor who must always be there for that. There's poverty of theory, poverty of swollen belly, shamed, poverty of the diploma or ballot that goes nowhere. Princes of predation, let me tell you, there are poverties and there are poverties. There's the poverty of cheap luggage bursted open at immigration, poverty of the turned head, averted eye, the poverty of bored sex, of tormented sex, the poverty of the bounced check, poverty of the dumpster dive, the poverty of the pawned horn of the smashed reading glasses, the poverty pushing the sheeted gurney, the poverty cleaning up the puke, the poverty of the pavement artist, the poverty passed out on pavement. Princes of finance, you who have not lain there, there are poverties and there are poverties. What a poem. I love this poem by Adrienne Rich, talking to the tycoons and the CEOs of Wall Street and all those princes.
Morally bankrupt poverty.
There is the poverty of hand to mouth and door to door, and the poverty of stories patched up to sell there. Ladies, thank you for coming today. I think we knocked them dead.
Thank you.
You certainly did with your wonderful poems and selections. So look forward to next month and a brand new show. May, the month of May, right?
That's good.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Gemma.
You're welcome.
I just feel street elegant today.
You are, I'll tell you.
Thanks, Elaine.
Thank you.
Yeah, look forward to next time.
Definitely.
That was
I can't believe
great.
for the two of you, it was the first time. It was the first
And
time I was
Kim?
doing the headlines. And
Thank you. Thanks
guys-
for having me.
What a wonderful debut you've made.
And Emily's so important. You did a great job.
Yeah, you did great.
Thank you.
Emily is so soulful.
Yeah.
So, do you have another word to say? How do you say, not farewell, but I'll see you next time?
Hasta pronto.
Hasta pronto.
Hasta pronto.
Sí.
Hasta pronto.
Hasta pronto.
Thanks.